Well, one of the things I really wanted to do on the opening day of the championship was to get together some of the third voices, because obviously we don't usually see each other that much. So we have Emily Windsor, who does the cricket commentary for BBC Radio Solent. We've got Kit Harris, who goes all around the country like myself. And we also have Charlie Taylor, who does a bit of that and is also, of course, does the cricket show at BBC Radio Somerset. I mean, I think we'll start with the Somerset perspective, if you like, because it's always the question on the first day of the championship, isn't it? Is it Somerset's year? It seems to sort of come round every year. I almost had a feeling that it might have been your year last year because of the shortened championship. It would sort of be a very Somerset thing to happen. Charlie, what's your what's your thoughts on Somerset's chances this time round?
Well, it would have been typical, wouldn't it, for Somerset to have won the year it wasn't the championship, when it was the Bob Willis Trophy. I worked it out. This is the 120th time that Somerset have been part of a county championship season. Still waiting for that first trophy lift. What do I think of their chances? The problem is they're starting on -8, which is never going to help if you're 8 points behind everyone else. Of course, that's in the early group stage. I think they're actually in quite a tricky group. Group 2 has got both London teams in it. They're always going to have something behind them. Middlesex, I know, were in Division 2 before COVID happened, so you'd say they're a weaker side, but actually doing very well. They've got some great talent in there, as have Surrey. We know the money they've got behind them. Hampshire, very good red ball outfit as well. You'd say Leicestershire probably the weaker team in that group. Probably, but who knows? Derbyshire surprised us all last year, didn't they? So perhaps Leicestershire can do something like that. And then you've got Gloucestershire, Somerset, who struggle against them in the white ball, seem to be better in the red ball, absolutely demolished them last year. So I would say Somerset should get through that. They're a very strong outfit. They've added Marchant de Lange this year as a replacement like for like, really, for Jamie Overton. So that's a really strong seam attack, which they've always had, really, in the last 4 or 5 years. They've been really strong, both Overtons being there. Lewis Gregory's been fantastic as well, really strong. Josh Davey picking up loads of wickets. They're strong there. I'd say their batting is the weaker outfit. Tom Lammonby was exceptional last year in a shortened season, scored 3 centuries, finished third highest of all run scorers of any team. If he's in form, if the captain Tom Abel can find form, James Hildred's been slightly low on form the last couple of seasons, hasn't been at his best. If he's back on form, they've got the talent there. Are they better than a team like Yorkshire or Essex? I think those are the two, for me, that are going to be the biggest contenders. I think it all comes down on the day. The Somerset have got fantastic strength. I'd love to see them do it. I think they've got the talent. It's just the luck sometimes doesn't go Somerset's way. Sometimes, and that's their own fault, though, I would say.
It seems worries about batting is sort of fairly perennial at this time of year. Emily, from the Hampshire perspective, I guess they could cause Somerset a few problems in that group. How are you rating their chances this season?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited for them, actually. I think that it seems that they've gone for a different batting lineup. James Vince, obviously the key man for Hampshire, he's moved down the order to number 5, and I actually really like that option. I think we have a very sort of aggressive middle order now, with North East at 4, Vince at 5, and then Dawson at 6, who's back fit, which is massive for Hampshire, having him back in that side as the all-rounder. And Joe Weatherly's been in really good form in pre-season games, and he sort of finished the season well last year at the top of the order. So it's a really big opportunity for him this year, and I'm really excited to see how he does. As Charlie sort of went through our group pretty nicely there, obviously Somerset, you'd look at that list and think would be the tougher game, but there is obviously the London clubs in there as well. But I can't not mention either. Early season, we've got Mohammed Abbas and Kyle Abbott with the new ball. I think that's going to be not a bowling attack you're not going to want to face if you're the opposition. So I think if we start this well, the first 7 games here early season, I think we've actually got a good chance.
And Kit, I know there's a soft spot for Somerset with yourself as well, certainly. But how are you looking at the championship as a whole?
I think it's a really nice structure. The key for me, and I reckon this point is already being borne out on day one, is that people always say that the championship should be a situation where any team can beat any team on the day. Well, look at how Gloucestershire have gone on day one against Surrey. That's been encouraging. The lesser teams, they're still showing that they can trade punches with the teams in Division 1. I think the structure is really nice, giving every county the opportunity to get through to the end. It's not perfect. Obviously, the Bob Willis Trophy being a playoff between 1 and 2 is a bit of a weird anachronism. To be frank, I think it's pretty stupid, actually, and I can't see it lasting more than a couple of years. There's only one thing that nags at me as a real cricket badger, which is that when you go through, as your team goes through from its conference to its division, it will take with it the points from both the games that it played against the team that goes with it from conference to division. So that means if, for example, you go forward from your conference in second place and thus into Division 1, but you lost both your games against the team that comes with you and came first in the conference, you're pretty much done. There's not a lot you can do from that situation.
I guess though the thing last year about it was we had this 3-1 situation, didn't we? Which always felt a little bit awkward.
The 3-1 situation.
At the end, you had kind of 3 group winners, and they were trying to, just because of the limits on games, they were looking to find one, so they had to do it on points.
Yeah,
so it just felt a bit of a squeeze at the end.
Yeah, it's just the potential for a statistical awkwardness in carrying through your points from both your games against your stablemate, because you're only then going to play the other teams in your division once each. So what it means is, if a team loses both their games in their division with maximum points to the team that comes first in your division, that runner-up in the division could go into its conference and win all of its conference games and still not win the division, which is a bit iffy.
I think, though, that brings in, doesn't it, that you don't want it to be like a 2-part season, how it's so important, isn't it, to do well in this first block of games to get into the championship, but also to get your place in the championship with those points carrying across. So in a way, I think it brings almost the 2 parts together quite nicely, if you do well.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? That's the thing. And on doing well, Charlie, I know you've been chatting to the Somerset players quite a bit. What have they been saying to you about how they're seeing this season and where it'll be won and lost?
Well, he was quite frank with me, the Somerset captain, Tom Abel, who said that actually he doesn't like this setup. I mean, easy to say for the captain of the team that, is one of the top 2 or top 3 teams in the country. Obviously, they're going to prefer a top division where you're playing against some of the best teams. You know that you're going to be challenging for the title right up through most of the season, if not all of it. I think they're quite optimistic about their chances. I think they feel like they're in a great group for them. To Somerset, when they play the good teams, it generally brings out the best in them as well. I'd say that apart from maybe Hampshire, who they seem to have a problem with, but I'm sure Emily will be very pleased to talk about that. Still got very bad memories of Kyle Abbott at Taunton taking, what was it, an 8 for, I think, something like that, which was pretty horrific a few seasons ago. The thing with Somerset is they've got a really great setup now, and that's something which they haven't had for the last 3 years where this has been in place. Fantastic, with Andy Hurry at the top, with Jason Kerr as the head coach. That's worked really nicely for them. Before that, they lacked a stability. They've been going through CEOs at a really quick pace, which, although the CEO doesn't have that direct hand in the cricket, actually it makes for a settled club to have a stable top. Somerset now have got into a position where it feels more stable as a whole structure for the team, and I think that breeds confidence in the pitch. They're a team that is full of, like, each individual player is bursting with confidence and talent, and if that comes together, that's something which could see them, rocket through. The season is going to be very quick. We've got game after game after game. You get on a roll in this first 7 weeks of the season, and you could be out of sight within the group. Aiming for the top 2, absolutely, but you could be easily well on for the top 3, aiming into the last couple of games of that setup. So I think if they can get on that roll, we know they're really, really talented. I think they feel like they are the team that's most deserving of a Red Ball trophy, having finished second well, it's a painful number to say, but something like 8 times out of the last possible 10 or something stupid like that. It's been horrible for fans, and the players feel it because they're all so close and feel such a loyalty to the club. And every time I speak to them, it's always confidence. There's never any doubt in themselves.
And in
Charlie, they do deserve a Red Ball trophy, but they're not going to get one. And it's all very well talking about stability and structure and how everything's moving in the right direction. And Somerset has got to be one of the very best clubs in the country on that score. But you haven't got any money. And the big problem that Somerset has is being able to recruit at the moment, even to retain. And a number of things have really conspired against Somerset this year. For a start, you've lost your backup spinner to Yorkshire, and you're going to lose your main spinner to England. That means you've got Van der Merwe and Goldsworthy as your only 2 other spinners in the entire professional side of the club. You've got 3 left-arm spinners. You have no variation in your first-class setup. Max Waller's only going to play white ball. You've lost Jamie Overton, and for reasons that I cannot begin to fathom, you have signed Marchand de Lange from Glamorgan. Absolutely don't get it at all. Somerset seem to have this persistent view that they need to keep on bringing in experienced bowlers who are not quite as good as the bowlers they've already got. Did it with Tim Grunewald, they did it with Jack Brooks, and now they've done it with Marchand de Lange. You've got plenty in the second 11, Ned Leonard, Casey Aldrich, and now Sonny Baker, who could come through. You don't need to spend money on people like de Lange. Look at the batting, Charlie. You know, in the last 20 years, Somerset have only signed 2 experienced batsmen from other counties. Nick Compton in 2010, and then you got to go back to 2004 for John Francis. You just don't have the batting. You've got a lot of talent in there, but at the moment, you've got a really uneven side, 8 decent seamers. The spin is now very thin, and you just don't have the batting to do it. Steve Davies at 6 ain't going to happen for you this year. For me, the excitement with following Somerset is, will you finish higher than halfway down Division 2? Because if it's split into 2 divisions next year, this could be the way that Somerset goes into the bottom half. I hate to be pessimistic, but this is not going to be Somerset's year. Emily, on the other hand, you guys at Hampshire, you are going to fly.
Yeah, I really am excited for our championship this year. I think how our side lines up, I think it looks fantastic. I think the one thing that worries me a little bit is potentially our depth in the squad. In terms of if we got a few injuries to key players, a bit like obviously we lost Liam Dawson last year. If we lost some, if a few of those did get injured, then I do think we don't necessarily have the depth in those experienced players. We do have some exciting young players in the background, but that's the one thing that would worry me is if we picked up some injuries early season.
And both the Somerset chaps there have mentioned the word Yorkshire. Is that where we see the threat coming from elsewhere in the country? Well, potentially for Hampshire, Emily, would that be somewhere they'd be looking in the latter stages as their main competition coming from?
And we got to mention Essex as well, haven't we? I think.
Of course.
They're obviously a fantastic Red Bull side, and they've got a real nice mix of experience and youth in their setup. So I think, yeah, but I think this setup has the opportunity for that underdog to really come out and shine. Which obviously, if you're a top team in Division 1, you're probably not going to like. But you mentioned Gloucestershire earlier. Like there are going to be, I think, these underdogs that cause a few upsets.
And the applause you might have heard ever so slightly in the background there was Tom Haynes going to 100 from 177 balls. So an excellent century for him here from Sussex, and he's pushing them up towards a dangerous total, which is exactly what you say. Those sort of sides that have got their opportunity, even though they were finding themselves in Division 2, could potentially cause a few little problems. Where do you then see the sort of in the other groups, Kit, the being the opportunities for teams to come through? As Emily rightly said, Essex are the defending champions of both these trophies, so I guess that's the obvious place to start from.
Yeah, hot favourites for Essex. I do think Yorkshire have a shout. I'm also keen on Hampshire. I think Lancashire have a good shout. I suspect that the way Surrey is going to go is that the Surrey are going to learn a lesson that they have learned often in the past, which is you cannot buy an 11 that gels. Again, it's a greatest hits compilation of assembled superstars from all other counties. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come off. More often than not, in the last 10 years, it hasn't in the Red Bull. Middlesex have got a sniff, but I think what we pundits expect to happen is that Middlesex will get close and then something will go wrong that's technical or not quite their fault, which will then give the Middlesex supporters what they really need, which is something to feel aggrieved and hard done by about for the next 24 months. So for me, it's Essex, Yorkshire, Hampshire, and Lancashire. Those are the ones that I would be backing, and obviously Derbyshire and Leicestershire to come last.
And for you, Charlie, where do you see the main challenges being in this one? Clearly, you think Somerset do have a chance, just to let you sort of address a little bit of what Kit was saying. But who else do you think will be competing with them?
Yeah, I would just quickly on what Kit said. I think he's right to say the batting is certainly our weaker suit within the club. I think that's true for a lot of clubs, as you kind of made a point, Mike, earlier on. I do have great hopes, maybe pinning too much on Tom Lammonby. Watching him last year, he's already hit a century in pre-season. If he can do the job at opening up, Tom Banton, I think we'll probably see. We'll really get a good look at Tom Banton, whether he's going to be a Red Bull player or not. Probably if he can get all 7 games opening, we'll have a very good look at him. If he goes as well as Tom Lammonby, then Somerset won't have too many issues. But I think Lammonby himself is the one to watch. But otherwise, Kit making some very good points about Somerset.
But Charlie, I tell you, Banton is going to happen. He's got far in all formats.
All formats, you think, right?
In maybe not this year. It maybe won't happen, but he's got it. That kid has got it all. He's low right now because he's had a tough time in kind of phase 2 of his 2020 career. But my goodness me, he is incredibly talented. Somerset need to find a way to keep him on the field.
What remains impressed when I saw him play Red Bull cricket, I have to say.
He is a huge talent, and he's proved that at white ball, and I think that's something which he'll continue to prove for a long time. What I really want to see is him on green wickets, opening up at 11 o'clock in the morning in April. That's what I want to. I just want to test his mettle. I just want to really see what he's made of, and I know the talent is there. Absolutely, he's proved that in white ball cricket. I just want to really see it. And if he wants to be an opener, great. Otherwise, pop him in the middle order. Ball's a bit older. Give him a license to hit out when games are drifting or something. He'll be perfect in there. But if he wants to be a test opener, if that's what he's eyeing up, and I think that's probably fair enough. It's fairly obvious that's what he's looking at. This is a great season to really test him out at. And yeah, if Somerset can keep hold of him, brilliant. Aside going to your point, Mike, about the other teams, I don't think there's anything I can really argue with there. Kent may be keeping an eye on them, but Darren Stevens, you can never write him off, can you? He keeps going and going. I watched him a couple of seasons ago at Headingley, actually, and incredible turnaround, hit double century, his highest score. He's still fantastic. And Sam Billings, when he plays well, plays extremely well. And they've got all the other talent in that squad. So I don't think I really see them as challengers, but that's the only other name I would throw into the mix as maybe a team that if they got on a roll, we know they gel, they get on really well. Kit talked about having a team that can gel when he referred to Surrey. Kent have got that. It's just if it comes together for them at the right time. But otherwise, yeah, Hampshire, I'm always nervous about Hampshire. I think they're a great team. They've made some brilliant signings. And in our group, in Somerset's group, I think that's the team that I would be most concerned about certainly visiting as well as having visit Taunton as well.
Well, there's lots to look forward to, and there's a whole summer of it, so it's going to be great fun, and hopefully we, as I say, we do get to run into each other at some point somewhere a little warmer and sunnier and with a bit more cricket going on. But it's been a delight to have a chat with you, and it's good to have it back ultimately.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a pleasure today, keeping an eye on the scores. Just so nice. My brain's just been wandering to all the different grounds, keeping an eye on what's been going on. It's fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. And there is one thing that's left unsaid, and it is more than the elephant in the room now, and it's where's the Women's County Championship? Because we spend all this time, as all the podcasts and all the vidcasts do, previewing the men's competition, and we must make a note here that again, after all the effort and all the planning that's gone into a domestic season, the women inter-county games are massively conspicuous by their absence, and it's just not okay.
On the regional side of things, Emily, and I said this when we spoke earlier, it would be remiss of me not to ask you about the Rachel Hayo Flint Trophy, because obviously Southern Vipers defending champions in that one, and I got a huge amount of pleasure watching that last season up in the North Group, but I guess it will be the Southern Vipers, the team to beat there. How are the preparations going for the title defence?
Yeah, really, really well. I think we've been lucky because we've been able to obviously train all the way through this sort of COVID lockdown, if you like. And yeah, we're really excited to get out there now. I think a lot of us have our first game this weekend, sort of pre-season, and then we don't start the competition till the end of May. So still a little while to go. But yeah, we know we're going to be the team to beat, I guess, and teams are going to want to beat us. But we're just going to go out there, take each game as it comes, and we're a really well-gelled squad, and we're looking forward to just getting out in the park, really.
Well, certainly looking forward to watching that one. And as you say, Kit, we'll wait to see what happens with the structure underneath it. But it does seem we've been waiting a while on that one.
Well, we haven't had a women's county championship since 2019, and that's not a COVID thing. That's a policy thing. And it's all very well bunching the women together into these 8 regional teams, and we do have, very good opportunities to get extremely internationally talented women, like of course Elise Perry, playing alongside very exciting but really, really raw local players, like Chloe Brewer at Surrey, for example, Maddie Villiers just making her way into the England setup. At least in the shorter form of the game, but we need development games. We have to have county games out there with prominence, not just this regional setup. It's a massive omission.